Welcome back, Robbie.
Thanks a million,
So,
Dan.
no bother. So we were just talking when we came back there about like if you were to ever have a kid who was a bit too how do we even put it, flirtatious with you. So like I've had a few issues.
Promiscuous, yeah,
I've had a
yeah,
few issues like with there's one girl who I was thinking was she flirting with me or something, and then the care worker that was with me at the time brought it up. I didn't feel comfortable bringing it up, and she
yeah,
said, "Yeah, just make sure you watch that because she's obviously smitten with you and
yeah,
likes you." But I was like, yeah, well, I'd never do anything like that. And she's like, no, 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 I know you wouldn't. But just if
yeah,
you're ever with her, I'll make sure I'm in the room at the same time to verify anything or don't pick her for one-on-one events. So if you're asking for help with something, don't say, oh, would you mind giving us a hand with this? Pick someone else and make it look kind
yeah,
of less obvious that you're
yeah,
not picking
yeah.
her. You know, that
You,
kind of
you
way.
probably you really are better off discussing it with your team players anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
because to let them know to be aware of it, but they might know more about this young person than you do. So when I went into I'll start with residential care. In residential care, a lot of young females didn't want to work with males
Mm.
because of their past experiences with
Yeah,
males. So I that really annoyed me because we're trained the same as everyone else. Like my
yeah,
intention to go into social care is not to take advantage of people, and so like we're trained very well. But like I got a bit like I've been guarded vetted, but it's the young person's wishes, which I have to respect. But I never had a female young person that didn't engage with me. I think it's because of the way I approach. I try and be real with them, not act like a big brother, but like try and get that kind of relationship going. Well, they listen to me and they take me advice. So I didn't experience any of that promiscuous behavior or flirtatious behavior in residential because you set your boundaries. But when I went into youth work, it's a little bit different.
mm.
You're working from a different angle, that sort of way. So
Yeah, yeah,
let's say there was a young person, she was probably only 14, but she looked probably about 17, the way
yeah.
she
They look a
presented
lot
herself.
maturer now, I find.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of young
So
women.
I noticed this young person just wouldn't leave me alone. When I talked to my supervisor about it, she did say, actually, yeah, she can be like that. But what I found out as I got to know this girl, she didn't have a father figure in her life.
Mm.
And she did have older brothers, but one of them was in jail and another fella just wasn't available to her. But I think she was just looking for approval. It's looking.
Yeah,
I think she thought. Now, this is just my take on it. I think she thought that's what she can bring to the table. It's all. Look at me. I'm attractive. She thinks that's what fellas want because
yeah,
no one's ever told her anything otherwise. But then, like you're working on that, and you're trying to say, hold on, no, look at your values. What is your
yeah.
values? It's trying to get them to think differently. But when you'd see her, like she lived in the community, so when I seen her walking around, she'd be with her friends. She was like, it could be bloody freezing outside, and she'd be wearing like, the fucking like you're going to the gym,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
very revealing
And
stuff.
yeah, very revealing. And I'm thinking like, this is drawing, like, and I was thinking. I wouldn't feel comfortable with my daughter walking down the road wearing that stuff for safety reasons, really.
Yeah,
Like I'm not saying you can wear whatever you want. We live in a free world, but common sense has to prevail sometimes. You don't want to make yourself look like a target, if possible. But I think it's down to looking for a role model, and young women think that's what they're for. I'm not saying that's what I don't know what they think, but that was my impression. They think this it's the physicality what you bring to the
yeah. I
table.
have to be
Actually, really,
attractive to a man,
yeah, you
kind of
have to be
way. Yeah,
attracted. But like when you actually do get into a serious relationship as you get older, attraction is nothing really. It's an initial thing that happens, but you need to be able to be compatible with your partner and have like not you don't have to have similar interests. You just have to be interested in each other and respect each other and all that stuff. But I just think the young people at the moment they don't have that information. They don't have anyone like females need their role models too, and
oh
male
yeah,
and female.
yeah,
So it's no difference than males. So yeah, I've experienced it a lot. But what I do is if I experience that, I let the staff members know. I think this is what's going on, and they'll see it
Yeah,
for themselves. So you're never left on your own, and I would not leave yourself on your own with a young person, either male or female. I try and have two people there with you.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
That's how I was trained. It's simply in case allegations are made, at least you have a witness there to say, well, this is what happened. So, like professionally, you have to protect yourself from any sort of things could be said, you know. And I've seen things happen. I actually know a young lad in Care. We got him. He was about 16, and we he sabotaged his last placement. Now I know we were talking about girls, but this fella sabotaged his last placement. And he said to one of the female staff, the reason how I got out of there was he said to management that a female staff come in and rubbed his leg when he was asleep. Like she checked in on
yeah,
him to sleep, and he said that she rubbed her hand over his leg. And it turns out this wasn't true. But that young woman had to be put on suspended leave like for 2 years, and she could have had a
yeah,
mortgage, she could have had children, but she lost her job for 2 years until that was proven otherwise. And
yeah,
it was only when he said this to, or it was actually our deputy manager at the time, he told her, and she let Tusla know all about it, and it came to the came to the forefront that he was lying, and he admitted to it, and obviously our deputy manager was like, that is not right, you shouldn't do that to people. So like it's not just girls that can initiate things like that, it's also fellas, you
yeah.
know,
It's
like for
important
female
that you
staff.
bring up a point like that because it can
Yeah,
happen to women workers as well.
yeah,
Because
I've
most
heard
people
of,
would think of it the opposite way around.
yeah, I now this was before, just about a year after I started working as a social care worker. I was working on this unit, and this guy who was 16 had a good rapport with the female staff, and they were going out for a drive one day, and he asked her to go to a certain place, and this young kid, like, he tried to rape the staff member, and he got
Jeez.
very close to doing it. Like, he
Yeah,
had her pants down and everything, and someone came to our aid. So
yeah,
like it can be very dangerous. That's why really, any carer, like youth worker, social care worker, anything like that, you need to have two staff. You need to have
yeah.
two
At
staff
all
with you.
times to
Yeah, at all
verify
times,
everything.
really. Like, don't get me wrong. If you're on a day out and there's like 20 kids and there's like three or four staff, that's fine. You have a little group, that's fine. But if you're walking in a building and it's just you in the room, I would not feel comfortable if I didn't have another staff member there. But
100%.
it's a little bit. I'm not saying it's different for women because I don't know, but I have seen women control the house, and this woman is trusted, and the kids don't mess around with that kind of stuff. So it just depends. I find younger staff members might be more vulnerable to getting attacked or being, manipulated or whatever. Same with a young staff member. But I think as you get older, like when I was working in aftercare, like I'm only 40, I still think I'm young, but these guys were like 18 and they all see me as an old man. And I was like,
Mm.
but like I just laughed about it, but they all thought
Yeah,
like I was an old man. But like I was at a stage where I realized actually I don't have that problem anymore. I don't have that problem where I feel like, oh shit, I need another staff member. Because as an aftercare worker, I was on my own with the kids anyway. But they weren't kids, they were adults. But I think the experience, and as they grow as well, that problem kind of just didn't exist. That sort of way. But it can exist with younger people because they're coming into their sexuality. They think, oh, I have this now. I have the body, and I'm gonna get what I want out of. I don't know, but I just feel like it is a concern. It is
yeah,
more. I think kids are more sexualized anyway at a younger age. I
yeah.
find.
100%. Yeah. They're
I
not as
saw.
mature either. But that's the
No, I'm
thing.
not. Now I know this isn't Ireland, but I saw it was on the news or something like that yesterday. Over in America, younger people are experiencing pubescence, like puberty, at like 10, 13. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, that's quite young. That is quite young. I don't know why, but
Mm.
obviously they're coming into their sexual activity a lot younger than I suppose I would have. Like, I didn't have any locks until I was like 14. Like I wasn't, I've seen some people like me mate Colin. He by the age of 14 he had a beard and everything.
Yeah,
But a lot of my friends, we kind of started at a later stage. But it's happening a lot sooner for young people, and young ladies are going through their menstrual cycle at a younger age and all that. So I'd imagine that changes how they see themselves. They don't see themselves as a kid anymore. They kind of probably see themselves as an adult, and they can do adult things. But it's not. You need to be mature also. That sort of where you can't just
yeah,
go out to the world thinking that I'm an adult now. It takes time to understand actually what it means to be an adult and to respect other people, and just how to be in a relationship properly. You
yeah,
know,
definitely. That's the thing, and like I feel like, as you say, they're coming into their sexual prime at a younger age, but
yeah,
with less maturity, and that's a
yeah,
dangerous thing. Like I
yeah,
remember my mate was only 17, and he said, "I better get the missus something, or she'll have a mare for her birthday." And I was there going,
yeah,
"The missus will have a mare. How fucking old are you?" Like it was almost like they wanted drama and arguments going on.
yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted to be like the henpecked husband. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Real lack of maturity, but thinking, "Oh, we're the big happy family here."
But that's the thing. Like that would have been like, oh, I'll be out the missus. I'll be in trouble if I go home early. This, that, and the other. I
Yeah,
think that I think that's changing. I don't. I think ever since fellas can be the parent now and stay at home and be
yeah,
the parent while the woman goes out and works. So I think the attitude has changed. It's not about like I come home and my dinner's on the table. It can be male or female, can out being the breadwinner and the other person stays at home and all that. But I think the attitude is changing somewhat. We don't
yeah.
like I know you still have your old school lads, the missus, this, that, and the other, but like I don't think they speak like that in front of their wives.
I
I
hope
used to work with.
not.
No, I hope not. But I used to work with a few old lads, and like just our language towards the younger staff, like it wasn't appropriate,
Yeah,
But like I wonder, did he behave like that at home? You know what I mean? Or is it just because they grew up in the 70s or the 60s or whatever?
they
You
get a
know?
free pass for it, don't they? Like one
Yeah,
of the
they kind of
lads,
get away with it.
yeah, like one
Yeah,
of
they
the older
do.
fellas, like the chief engineers, that when I was working in a pharmaceutical company, like he was asking me real personal questions about the two young ones I was working with, and he was like, "Are
Yeah,
they really immature, or are they dozy bitches or something?" And I was like,
yeah,
"I don't really feel confident to speak to their character. I don't really know them that well. Plus, you shouldn't
yeah.
really be calling them dozy bitches in this day and age."
No, no.
It was very
He's not in
much
the right.
like, because I was a male member of staff, he kind of seemed to trust me a bit more, which I
Yeah.
was happy he did. But at the same time, I was like, you shouldn't really be behaving that sort of way in this day and age.
No, it makes me feel like actually, are you in the right job?
Yeah,
Like behind closed doors, right? I'd say this happens a lot with doctors, nurses, and all that. You have a dark sense of humor because you need to have fun. You need to have some sort of laugh in difficult
yeah,
situations.
yeah,
But you don't talk about the kids in a negative light
mm,
because the reason for that is if you do it, let's say you're the leader in the group and you start doing it, you're giving other people permission to do it who would do it. And then you're giving the people who would never do that, you're putting them in a corner because either they play the game
mm,
or they say no and get in conflict with. But like a lot of people don't want to get in conflict. So I think you need to be a role model for your staff as well. So if someone said stuff like that to me, I correct them on it. But that only happened with experience and as I got older. Like I
yeah,
wouldn't allow that to happen. But like sometimes kids are hard work, and you might say this little courier, but like you try and keep that respect there. You don't want to express your feelings on how you really think. You like
no,
we can have our own thoughts, but like you're in a professional environment and you're there to provide a therapeutic supportive service. So yeah, just don't be afraid to don't be afraid to have your own opinion when you're around staff members. Let's say they say something that's inappropriate. Just you don't have to have an argument about it. Just say, the God loved them. Like try and get that person to see where this little kid's coming from. They
yeah,
probably don't have a role model, this, that, and the other. It kind of humanizes the situation. So they don't think, they will probably agree with you. Actually, you know what, you're right. So that's how I approach things like that. If someone's quite negative about a kid, I would say something, or could have happened to me in the past. I said something, and someone else kind of corrected me in that way. So that's probably how I learned. So I'm not saying everyone's perfect, though. We all make mistakes, but if you're aware of it, it's okay to take control of it and say, actually, this kid might be coming from a bad place, and I feel bad for them, and try and get that empathy going, because some people can be burnt out and you can become complacent and think you know the job so well. But you really do have to remember the fundamental reasons why you're working with these people is because they're vulnerable and they need your
Yeah.
support. They need honesty. They need someone that's really honest and truthful with them. So all those skills, they're not easily obtained. You really do have to work on them. Like it's not easy to be honest because
No, exactly. Especially like when there's
people.
a certain narrative, like you were saying, like if there's a certain way of talking or a culture in the
Yeah,
job, you feel like
yeah,
if you go against the narrative, then will my staff or the people I'm working with like me? And then there's you want people who you can confide in as well
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
having issues, you
Like I
know?
experienced, yeah, I experienced a staff member. We got on all right. We got on all right, but he said to me one day, I forget the contents of the conversation, but I just turned around to him and says, "I don't work for you. I work for the kids." And he
Yeah,
went, "Oh, is that where we are?" I go, "That's where we are. That's where I'm not here to make fucking friends with you." Like I shouldn't have said that because it got personal then. I should have just said, look, I'm here, we're here to provide care. But
yeah,
like it's just the way we had a relationship. I had to put him in his place. Now he's twice the size of me. But I just said, like, no, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do a job. And my kids are the kids are priority, I'm not here to fucking look after you. So that caused a little bit of problems for me. Like that information got back out that I don't work for the staff, I work with the kids, and my back was to the wall for a little bit.
yeah,
So, if you're gonna have your principles and stand by them, be prepared. Be prepared to have your back to the wall sometimes, but that's the cost of being honest and having your principles in order. If you want to be everyone's friend, yeah, well then go with what everyone's saying. But if you go in with your principles, these are my core principles, and I'm not gonna bow down. And that's how I'd approach your career
mm,
if in working with young people, really. But like have your principles and morals in order and go from there and never break them. Never break them.
yeah,
But like, if you ever find yourself where a young person is warming up to you too much, confide in your supervisor and he or she will give you the guidance you need, or else give you a bit of a break from that person. Put you onto a different task or whatever. But it's good. You have to be vigilant. You really, because you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know how a day is going to go. You don't know how someone's going to interpret something. You might think I went home, that's fine, the shift was great. And then the next day you come in and someone's like, oh, you shouldn't have said that, and you should have said this. And I'm like, what? I thought we were just having a conversation. But like, yeah, you really have to be vigilant around what you say. And, even if I don't know if I'd approach a young person, let's say a young female was warming up to you and she just, you know, acting promiscuous and all that, I wouldn't identify that with the young person,
yeah,
simply because I wouldn't know how to. So that's where you go. It's okay to go and speak to your leader or your manager or whatever, and you get some advice. But like even experienced people need advice, you know. So don't be afraid to ask for it. But
yeah. And once I
anyway,
said it and I made the situation clear, they
no,
were
good
like,
on
"Don't
you.
worry about it." Yeah, like I
Yeah,
said it to like the supervisor of all of us, so she looks after all the groups around the
yeah,
North Wexford area. So I was like, "Look, this
that's
woman's
good
kind of on to
practice.
me." She kind of knew of her, so she was like, "Ah, yeah,
Yeah,
look, we know what we are talking about. Don't worry about it.
yeah,
It's fine." And then they could all give me examples, like they were talking about a young one that came into the group before, a good-looking young one who developed quite early. We say it was wearing very low-cut tops
yeah,
and bending over in front of male
yeah,
staff, and they were like,
yeah,
"What way do we look here? Like, what way do we look that we're not going to be
yeah,
accused of something?" It was
yeah,
obvious to all the female staff anyway that she was trying to entice the male staff. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. No, that's good practice. What you did was
Yeah,
totally correct. And
just
like,
to get
let's say
ahead
I
of
was in
it,
the
you know.
semi-independent unit. This is when I was talking about how to, yeah, just you know what I mean. But like, let's say I was saying there is a time where the kids don't see it as that anymore. They're more interested. Oh, they're more interested in the. Are we there?
Yeah, yeah, we're
Signal
there.
went a bit.
No, it's all good here anyway. I can hear you.
Are we all right?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was working in semi-independent, the young females, like I mean, what the fuck were they wearing? I couldn't believe it. Like they are heading out for a night out,
Yeah,
and they're not wearing fuck all. And they're coming to the like we have our own little office, and they come to the door, let me know they're heading off, and I'm just like, what are you wearing? What the
yeah.
fuck are you
You're
wearing? I
not
try
wearing
and be like a
anything.
dad, like can't wear shit like that. It's freezing. Yeah, but like it's just, but these young girls are going out to try and get some validation, you
Yeah,
know, to get recognized or whatever they're lacking. You know, they don't have that father saying "I love you," you know, and that's a big deal. That really is a big deal, you know. But yeah, I do find the kids will eventually focus their sexuality within their own age group, or else you might find young people dating older men. I've seen
yeah.
that a lot,
I have
you
too, and
know.
like I kind of think like I
It's
went to
terrible.
Longitude before with a few mates, and I remember just looking. I'd heard about the outfits and how little young ones were wearing, and I thought, fucking hell. Like, obviously, you're not saying
Yeah.
they deserve what happens to them. Never. Like, and that's what seems to be said all the time. You're like, no, well, you have to admit you're
No,
increasing the
they,
risk of it happening. Do you know what I mean? Because young fellas are going to
yeah,
look, and at that
and you
age,
will,
they're
yeah,
horny. Like, and
and that is a
they
big argument. Like you will,
yeah,
yeah, you will say, you'll hear people say, "Well, she went out wearing that." And I agree with you. That isn't appropriate sometimes to wear, and you're trying to find a balance between, this is a free world, you know, you should be able to
yeah.
do what you want, but you know. Like, would you walk through, like, you know, a very dangerous place somewhere in the world wearing nothing, like or carry loads of jewelry in places. There's certain things you have to think about. Actually, I might put myself at risk here.
And that's
But
exactly it. Like,
you
that's
need
what I think.
people. Yeah,
I just think like obviously you can wear what you want, and most lads will not do anything about it. But if you
yeah,
lead them on and then decide that you're not into them, and your mates have warned you about them and said I don't really trust this bloke, and you chose not to take that advice, I'm still
yeah,
not saying you deserve what happens to you, but it's going to increase the risk of it happening, especially
yeah,
young ones going back in cars with fellas that they've accepted drinks off all night, and now the fellas
yeah,
like, now what can you do for me? Do you know that sort of way?
yeah.
It's
And
like
the,
those
like
drinks
what?
aren't free.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a good point you made there, because let's say you tell a young person, "This is how this lad," you get a feel for the situation. Yeah, gone. My
No, I'm
internet
here.
connection's
I'm
gone a
here.
bit funny there. You all right?
Mine's all good, yeah. All good here.
Are we all good here? Right. Sorry, it's just my
Yeah.
internet connection went slow. So
No,
let's say
we're
you
all
have
good.
that conversation, you let them know what could happen. Yeah, we could let the young person know what could happen with this person. Like, let's say they go out on a date or whatever, and then it does happen. Then you can have that conversation. Look, we talked about this.
Yeah.
You need to trust what I'm saying a bit more. And like when I say someone's not good for you, take it into consideration, because you can't tell them what to do. You can only advise. They won't listen to you anyway. But if you start to see cycles and you say, look, if you keep on going down that road, A, B, and C is going to happen, and then it does. Then they'll come back to you and say, actually, you said that. You told me that had happened. Then they
Yeah.
might trust you a little bit more. So it's about building up that relationship. That's how you get people to really listen, you know.
100%. Yeah. And that's the
But
thing.
yeah,
Like, until
it's
they
a
actually see it.
it's a rabbit hole. Yeah,
Absolutely.
until they see it. But yeah, anyway. What was that other subject you wanted to chat about?
Yeah. So I was going to talk to
Integration.
you. I was going to talk to you about if you've seen or worked with any refugee kids, and like, has there been integration there? Because I see a real lack of it. I just see where it's a case of they're in one corner, and then there's another group in the corner, the Irish and the other children, and it's kind of like, how do we integrate here? And then there's a Ukrainian support worker, and she's kind of interacting with them,
Yeah,
and they don't respond to the Irish support worker. They only respond to the Ukrainian one. She's like, "Oh, this is okay because she said it's okay," but she's not. They're not listening to the
yeah,
Irish support workers who are equal. We're all equal. There's nobody who's above anyone else, and I feel like there's just not enough of
yeah,
an issue made that look. you're in Ireland. We understand you've come from a difficult situation, but we're trying to integrate you here. I understand you want to speak your native language as well a little bit, but when a staff member is
Yeah,
talking to you, you don't just look away or blank them and pretend they're not there. And then if a
yeah,
Ukrainian worker says it's okay to do this, but somebody else says it's not, you don't just take the Ukrainian person's word over the Irish person. You know, that kind of way. I just feel like
yeah,
there's a bit of a lack of, like, I don't want to say forced integration, but say like there was a good system that we did before, where there was a game down on the beach that we were playing with the kids, and we would partner a Ukrainian person up with an Irish person, so they all kind of had a buddy to have to learn something about the person, and then
yeah.
it's kind of like, right,
Good
tell me
approach.
what you learned about them, you know?
Yeah, that's a good approach.
Yeah,
Like my problem would be like communication with the staff member. If a staff member is from Ukraine, um, I'd let them know, look, this is the policies we work under, because there's legislation that governs your practice here in Ireland. Like
yeah.
there's the National Standards for Children in Residential Units, there's Children's Force, and there's Childcare Act, and they all
I
inform
did
you
children's first.
what you can and
Was my
cannot do. So if a children's force has to be done because you have to recognize if a young person is being abused, and
yeah,
all these things help you come to a better conclusion how to approach things. But if a worker from Ukraine or from any other country takes it on their own accord and say this is, I would actually say, actually, could I speak to you for a minute? And I'd say, look, this is the policies of the unit, and that's not a good approach. So that's how I'd approach them before. But I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. Like I haven't worked with Ukrainian children. I've worked with children from Hungary and from Romania, and I've actually worked with two young people from the same family, and that particular family had three kids taken into care that they've been fostered. I think they don't think they're going to get those kids back, but they had two young males, and I had one of them after the other. There was a bit of a break between the two of them, but that wasn't. I didn't experience that like. But I actually I could be biased because none of our staff members at the time, we were all Irish. None of our staff members were from any different countries. So the lads took her advice, and don't get me wrong, they still did their own thing, and they eventually disappeared. They eventually disappeared, and never seen them again. They just got in a boat one day and left the country. So that's all I know. But as we moved on, we started working with let's say kids from Africa. And then we started having staff teams who were from Africa. So the Africans have a different approach. I think parents from Africa is probably like the parents we had back in the 50s or
yeah,
60s.
yeah.
Like
They hit kids
they'd be,
back there anyway
they're
when they're
very
over there.
strict. Yeah, yeah. Like I'm not actually saying that. Like I've actually seen African families really raise their kids really well. You know what I mean? But it's a strict environment for them. So like I found there was a bit of a different approach from the staff team from Africa towards the kids than the Irish team. But like I think the young people more so responded to the Irish team a bit better,
Mm.
simply because I think they were so sick and tired of that restrictive practice that they had as young children. And like I think the Irish people, we've come out of that
Yeah,
restrictive practice. Like our children are more liberal. And go out and find out who you are. That sort of thing. But I encountered a different approach from different staff members. But it wouldn't be right or wrong. It's just their approach is different, and that's fine. But as long as it's not oppressive or restricting their ability to have a decent life. But yeah, integration. It wasn't a big thing really for us. We didn't have to worry really about integration. Our job was to make sure that that young person had time with our family, and they went out. We brought them to like let's say one of the kids wanted to do kickboxing, so we brought him to that, and he met people from different parts of the country, and that was fine. He integrated really well. But like you said, the football, that's a good one. Getting two lads from two different countries to work together.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And that's how, like, they will eventually. integrate into our country. It's just I think our government has a lot to do with that. Our government put people separate to each other, and like
Yeah,
what's really funny. I saw. Now I know this may happen in Ireland, but in Canada there the other day, teachers were asking their parents of the students to not put in pork or ham in the sandwiches because it offends other people.
yeah, the
That's
Islamic community.
direct kind of taking one. Yeah, and it's kind of like I've seen them doing this a lot, right? So you had the gay community who were put on a pedestal, and then you had the trans community who were put on a pedestal. But it was all just, it seems like it was just to create a divide between us people. Like it doesn't matter if you're trans, it doesn't matter if you're gay, that's your life. But like we're trained to think like, oh, they're getting more than us. And it's just they're doing the same thing now that the Christmas trees at Christmas we can't do certain things because it offends others. I think the government have a huge role to play into helping us integrate with each other instead of separating us and pointing out this is going on. I don't even think half of the shit is going on. I don't. I know a lot of Muslim people, and I don't see it. I think they're lovely people, kind people, and they're not going into the schools complaining. Now, maybe it does happen. Maybe it does happen, but I think it just takes one person to rock the boat. It really does. And the government really, they're not doing a good job. I'm not a fan of the government at the moment anyway, and what they're
No,
doing.
I
But
think
I
a lot of
think your
people would agree with you.
integration, yeah, yeah, like it's a shambles what they're doing. But I think they have a big role to play. Like I think even coming into Ireland, you should have a level of standard of English. Like, to be able to, if you really are coming over to work and all that stuff, you should be able to speak like a level standard of English. But like, it doesn't seem to be a necessity for certain criteria. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
a
don't
good
know.
point.
I just think then that reflects on the young kids because, like, if the parents don't feel like they're being integrated and accepted into the country, they're not going to allow their children to go out and engage with the locals. Like we saw what happened there with that young boy that came over from Ukraine. He was only here 3 days, and he was murdered,
Yeah,
So like what happened there is what I'd like to know. I guarantee you the staff are going to be blamed in some way, which is totally wrong because the staff going in there and they're trying to do their best, but they were put in a difficult position there. Like I want like even vetting. How can you vet a young person at 17? Coming from a different country, you don't know what kind of upbringing they had. Are they dangerous? Are they not? But my heart goes out to that Ukrainian kid. Like he was literally only here 3 days. I think his parents were asking him not to go, but like he went anyway, and like he may as well went to the front line. He may as well went to the front line. I just think Ireland, it's not the government aren't putting in place the proper services that's required, and people are burnt out. A lot of people are leaving social care, which I've done. I've left social care, so I'm in the
yeah,
process of going starting a new job. So I just wouldn't work for the Irish government now. Even Tusla. Tusla has such a bad name at the moment. It's not good. It really isn't. But yeah, I just think they could make a better effort, you know.
yeah. And like what I was gonna say is just like when you actually see the humanity in people, you see what they're actually like in real life. It takes away
Yeah.
the them and us. It's like you're a human being
Yes.
first. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like you were saying before, just about the African youth workers, I was like talking to a few of them before. They were all lovely, but they come from
Yeah.
a society where children are openly beaten, by a lot of parents, and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
frowned
Yeah.
upon. So it's a really different way of looking at it. They said they didn't agree with it, but they're trying. They're fighting
Yeah.
an uphill battle because in Africa, if a kid is bad, it's not seen as bad for the dad to give him a clatter,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a different mindset. But I think what we have to kind of do over in Ireland is kind of say, look, you're in Ireland and we don't accept people hitting kids. We don't think
Yes.
it's a good approach. And like
Yeah.
you said as well, we have a generation who are very used to it. Like it was very much the done thing before that you get a clatter. Whereas we've come a long way in a short period of time. And I think it's wrong that youth workers get blamed for
Yeah.
the fact that a young fellow was only here 3 days and was the lad who killed him an immigrant? I'm not sure. I think he was.
Yeah. He was. He was from
Yeah,
Somalia.
But
yeah,
like that's the thing, it's gonna be Ireland is dangerous and Irish people are
yeah.
racist and all
That's
this sort of thing. And it's like,
yeah.
well, the young fella who
All
killed
that
him was
shit.
an immigrant as well. But I guess the biggest thing about humanity that I got to see personally was when I worked in a hotel near where we are now, and I worked with a Syrian young fella, and he'd fled to Lebanon when
Yeah,
Al Assad, the dictator over there, started his
yeah,
regime. But then the Lebanon
yeah.
got hit as well, and he had to flee to another country. And you're kind of like, look, your heart has to go out to the young fella, and he was studying for a leaving cert. No other young fella had to worry
Yeah,
about that. He had a lot on his plate, and he was doing
yeah,
the dishwashing job with me. Then they were getting him to make desserts, and he was getting paid like €4 less than I was, and he was really struggling, you know. And then you could kind of go, my heart goes out to him as a human
uh,
being, you know. It's not that
yeah,
he's this and I'm that. We're both working together. He's always been very helpful to me. He even actually gave out to it where he said to me that another Syrian lad wasn't doing what he should have been doing. He wasn't picking up the slack, and he was like, "Dan, don't worry about helping him. He's not helping you. Trust me. I know that this lad is out for himself only." So he looked out for me. So you get to see that not everyone is the
yeah,
same from the same
yeah.
background. I know it's a bit twee to say, but until you actually
Exactly.
meet people from the backgrounds and chat to them, you're gonna have Irish people here and then foreign people here, and it does my
Yeah,
head in to see how many
yeah.
people are trying to claim that Ireland is a racist hellhole when that's not the truth. But as you've said, the government are doing a
No,
shocking
it's not the
job.
truth.
The government are pitting people
Yeah,
against each other.
like I like we talk about integration. Just we've a minute left, but
Yeah,
I know two young people at the age of 15 were sent over to Pakistan for an arranged marriage, and the Irish government didn't intervene.
yeah,
I'm like, why is that being allowed to happen? If these kids are being, okay, they're Irish now, they're in our country, it's our government that isn't protecting them, and we're the ones that's the racist. But these kids are allowed to go off to a different country and get married, when
yeah.
really the government should intervene and say, no, that's a child. Child can't get married. So there's a lot of holes. It's like a cheese block. There's a lot of holes in the Irish government's policies,
Oh, sure.
and
The UK government had
it
problems with
doesn't cover the fundamental.
did you ever see the UK had problems with honor killings? So, like, if you dishonored the family in India, I think it
Yeah,
was in
yeah, I've
Indian
seen that.
culture, and they just didn't want to
Oh,
get involved.
that's just an Indian thing.
Yeah, that's just their
No,
culture.
so don't
That's what they said.
so don't take them over if you're not going to actually get them to integrate. You know.
Exactly.
Anyway, mate, we are on our last minute,
We
unfortunately.
are indeed. Thanks so
But
much for
yeah,
coming on.
no bother at
Appreciate it.
all. We'll do it soon, but I am planning on starting a new job soon, so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, no bother.